Millionaire discovers shocking truth, stepmother exposed for abusing his daughter, his incredible journey of heartbreak and redemption. Jack Thompson had always been the kind of guy who could turn frowns into smiles. The devoted father and self-made millionaire built his fortune from the family general store. A place that felt more like a second home to him and the community. But today, an unwelcome chill swept through that cozy Midwestern town, a storm brewing that had nothing to do with the weather. The news spread like wildfire, and with it, a sentence so heart-stopping it felt like a punch in the gut. His stepmother, Margaret, had been abusing his daughter, Emily. With every passing second, the weight of betrayal crashed down on him, squeezing his heart so tightly he could barely breathe. Emily was everything to him, a vibrant artist whose laughter once echoed through their home. Now, that laughter lay buried under layers of pain and shame. Jack thought of her bright blue eyes, now dimmed with hurt, and it was a sight he couldn't bear. That he thought about the weekends spent painting the fence, laughter spurring them on as they mixed colors, creating a colorful display that mirrored their bond. Yet, here he was, staring at a looming tragedy, faced with a woman who had once meant something to him. Jack felt the grip of despair tightening around his chest as whispers exchanged among neighbors threatened to unravel the fabric of his life. Day by day, Emily withdrew deeper into herself, her once vibrant spirit suppressed beneath an invisible weight. Jack's hands shook, full of anguish and helplessness, as he watched his daughter slip away. He felt like a ghost in his own home, haunted by her absence. Would she ever trust him again? The shrill sound of laughter and joy faded, leaving an echo of sorrow that crushed him with every heartbeat. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's mind was a battleground of emotions. He was furious, confused, but mostly devastated. How could Margaret have done this? It twisted his insides to think that the woman who had stood by his father had become a source of such pain. Torn between protecting his daughter and remaining loyal to the woman who had married his father, he felt he was on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into an unknown abyss. Then came the pivotal moment he never wanted: confrontation. Standing before Margaret, words hovered in the air like dark clouds. He mustered all the courage he could find, filled with raw emotion. He had to protect Emily, regardless of the ties to the woman who claimed innocence. Could he do what needed to be done? The weight of his decision loomed over him, sounding like a ticking clock. Just as he found his resolve to take the first step, a text flashed across his phone, a message from Emily. It was cryptic, chilling him to the bone. As he read the words, fear gripped him tighter than ever. Was she truly safe? As Jack stood there, heart pounding and palms sweaty, he knew everything was about to change. The question was, at what cost? Tomorrow wasn't promised. He could lose his daughter for good if he didn't act swiftly. The stakes had never been higher, and either way, nothing would be the same again. Jack's heart raced as he reread Emily's text, each word cutting like a knife. It was brief, almost too simple, but it sent his mind reeling. I need you. Please come home. The plea struck him with a raw urgency he couldn't ignore. In that instant, the confrontational encounter with Margaret seemed trivial compared to the desperate cry for help from his daughter. Without a second thought, he turned on his heel and bolted out of the house, the front door slamming behind him. The cool air hit his face, clearing his mind just enough for him to focus on what truly mattered: Emily. The drive back felt endless, the road blurring as he tried to shake off the feeling of dread pressing down on him. Jack's thoughts raced, each one more frantic than the last. What was Emily facing? Had Margaret manipulated her further? The thought twisted his stomach. This woman had shattered the trust he built with his daughter, and just thinking about their relationship made his heart feel heavier. As he pulled into the driveway, he spotted Emily sitting on the porch, her knees pulled to her chest, looking so small against the backdrop of their vibrant home. The laughter and light that once filled this space had vanished, replaced by a thick silence that hung in the air like rain before a storm. Jack's stomach flipped. He couldn't make out the look on her face through the dimming evening light. He called, his voice strained with relief and worry all at once as he approached. She lifted her head slowly, and Jack caught a glimpse of those once bright blue eyes now clouded with pain. "Dad," she spoke softly, but even that small word carried a weight of longing and despair. He rushed forward, wrapping his arms around her. For a moment, she just leaned into him, and the world outside the chaos melted away. "Everything's going to be okay," he whispered, though even he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. He fought back tears. He had to be strong for her. "Did you find out?" Emily's voice trembled, pulling him back from his thoughts. "Did you talk to Grandma?" Jack felt a sickening knot in his throat. He couldn't lie to her. It would be a betrayal on top of what had already transpired. "I did," he admitted, swallowing hard. "But I need you to tell me what's been happening, sweetheart. Please." The weight of unspoken words hung heavily in the air. Emily hesitated, her gaze flicking down to the ground as if searching for answers in the fading grass. Finally, she looked back up, determination shining through the hurt in her eyes. "There's something you don't understand. I need you to believe me." Jack nodded slowly, the seriousness of her words taking hold of him. "I do believe you, Em. Always." She took a shaky breath, preparing to share the weight of her own fears, and just as she began, noise from inside the house interrupted them. Margaret's voice, a familiar tone now twisted in Jack's mind, echoed through the hallway, and with it, a rush of anger surged through him, threatening everything he had built to protect Emily. "Stay close to me," Jack said, his eyes narrowing toward the door that felt like a mere wall between them and the truth. Emily nodded, gripping his hand tightly. They were standing at a crossroads, and Jack could feel it deep in his bones. The time for confrontation was now, but he also sensed that this wouldn't end quietly. As they moved toward the door, Jack's heart raced not just with dread but anticipation. This was the moment when everything could change. Would they confront the darkness together, or would the truth tear them apart? As Jack took a step toward the door, a chill ran down his spine. The oppressive silence from within was overwhelming. He could feel Emily's hand tightening around his, her small fingers seeking strength in his larger grip. Each beat of his heart echoed like a drum, dividing the tension that hung thick in the air between them. "On three," he whispered, his voice barely above a murmur, but she nodded, determination igniting her eyes once more. 1, 2, 3. He burst through the door, his mind racing, ready for a confrontation. The familiar living room, once a place of comfort, now felt alien. The walls seemed to close in, tainted by the secrets they harbored. Margaret stood in the kitchen, her back turned to them, seemingly engaged with a pot simmering on the stove. "Mom!" Emily called, her voice a mix of defiance and fear. Jack felt the way her body tensed beside him, and he steadied his breath, preparing for whatever storm was about to unleash. Margaret turned slowly, her expression shifting from casual to apprehensive as her gaze landed on Jack and Emily. "What are you doing home so early?" she asked, her tone deceptively sweet, but Jack could see the flicker of something darker in her eyes. "We need to talk." Jack's voice was firm, cutting through the atmosphere thick with tension. He would not let her deflect or disguise her intentions any longer. Margaret's smile wavered, and she set down the wooden spoon, crossing her arms in front of her. "About what?" "I don't have time for this. You two need to." "Emily has something to say." Jack interjected quickly, feeling the weight of his daughter's fear boiling just beneath the surface. Emily hesitated, her gaze darting between Jack and Margaret, but she stood tall next to him, regaining her courage. "It's about the things you said, the way you treat me." "Sweetheart, you know I only want what's best for you," Margaret tried to soothe, stepping forward as if to wrap her arms around Emily, but Jack stepped protectively in front of her. Don't you dare touch her," he demanded, feeling the rage build like fire in his chest. "You don't get to play the caring figure anymore. We know what you did." Margaret's mask slipped for a moment, revealing a flash of anger. "What I did? You think you know everything? You're just a man who can't see the truth. Just an angry father trying to control everything." "Enough!" Jack shouted, surprising both Margaret and Emily. "This isn't about me. This is about Emily. You've hurt her emotionally, mentally, trying to turn her against me. No more lies. No more manipulation." The silence that followed was deafening. Jack could see the conflict in Emily's eyes as she wrestled with her loyalty to her father and the fear of confronting Margaret. He reached for her hand again, squeezing it gently, a silent promise that he was there, unwavering. "You can tell me everything, Em. You're not alone," he said softly, urging her to find her strength. She took a deep breath and finally spoke. "Grandma told me that you would never believe me, that you would side with her. But it's all been too much. I just want to be safe." For a heartbeat, Margaret's confidence faltered. Jack saw the cracks of worry in her facade. "Em, that's enough," Margaret snapped, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. "You know I care about you." "No, you don't," Emily retorted, her voice stronger now, infused with a resolve that reflected Jack's own determination. "It's time for the truth. You've made me hate myself all these years. I won't let you do it anymore." Jack felt a surge of pride as he looked at his daughter, finally stepping up against the woman who had tried to control her. But he also felt the palpable threat in the air. Margaret was dangerous, and Jack didn't know how far she would go to protect her own secrets. Then Margaret laughed, a dark, twisted sound. "You think you're strong, Emily? Just wait until the truth comes crashing down on you both." Jack's heart raced. He knew then that they had unleashed something far more ominous than they expected. "Let us see what happens when the truth comes out," he dared. Knowing the confrontation had just begun, what were the secrets Margaret was hiding, and how far would she go to shield herself from exposure? Emily's heart pounded as she faced her grandmother. The laughter hung in the air like a dark cloud, suffocating. Jack felt the tension in her grip as he searched Margaret's face for any sign of vulnerability. "What truth?" he challenged, standing tall, refusing to back down. Margaret's expression twisted, rage clicking into place. "You think this is about you and your daughter?" she spat, her voice growing sharper. "You have no idea what you're playing with." A shiver coursed through Jack's spine. He caught a glimpse of the monster he had always suspected lurked beneath Margaret's polished surface. "Then enlighten us," he dared. "You want the truth?" she hissed, her eyes narrowing. "Fine. But when it all unfurls, don't come crying to me." As Emily stood firm next to her father, Jack felt a swell of protectiveness. "We can handle whatever it is, Mom. It's time to be honest." Margaret's gaze shifted, her confidence cracking like fragile glass. "You really think you can challenge me? You have no idea how badly I can hurt you both." Her voice was low now, a menacing whisper edged with desperation. "What have you been hiding?" Emily implored, her voice steadier than she felt. This was a battle worth fighting, and she wouldn't let fear dictate her voice any longer. For a moment, silence fell again. Then, Margaret's face turned a shade paler, a flicker of guilt hinting at her expression. "You think you're grown up, Em? You think you can confront the truth? There are things you will never understand. I've seen enough to know you've treated me like a pawn in your games," Emily shot back, her cheeks flushed with emotion. "I deserve to know what's really going on." Margaret winced, clearly weighing her options. But the calm facade had shattered under pressure, and Jack sensed that this might be the moment the dam finally broke. With a heavy sigh, Margaret's shoulders slumped slightly. "Truth is complicated," she mumbled, looking away, almost defeated. You think I don't care? I did everything for you both. The world is cruel and I had my reasons. What reasons? Jack pressed, his patience wearing thin. What justifies the pain you've caused? She met his eyes again, and for the first time, the well-crafted mask was gone. You think you want to know the truth. But once the words leave my mouth, there's no going back. You'll wish you hadn't known. Jack glanced sideways at Emily, seeing the hope mix with fear in her eyes. We're ready. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Can you handle that? Margaret challenged, stepping closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. What if the truth shatters your precious little world? Emily's breath caught. My world already feels broken, Grandma. I can't hide anymore. Please, just tell me. Jack's heart sank, fearing the answer even as he stood with Emily, side by side against the woman who had inflicted so much pain. The air thickened around them, a storm ready to break loose. Margaret's hands trembled slightly as she bit her lip, fighting against the truth that threatened to escape. Fine, she said suddenly, her voice laced with resignation, but don't say I didn't warn you what could possibly shatter them more than they already felt. Jack braced himself as Margaret prepared to expose her secrets, knowing the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. Would they be ready for the fallout? Margaret took a step back, her eyes darting around as if searching for a way out. The tension in the room hung thick, almost suffocating. Jack's heartbeat echoed in his ears, a relentless drum urging him forward. Okay, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You want the truth? Just know it's not what you think. None of this is black and white. Emily stood straighter, pulling on the strength she could muster. Then tell us, Grandma. Just say it. Margaret's gaze hardened, and for a split second, Jack could see the woman he once admired flash before him, the warmth overshadowed by anger and despair. Your mother, she started, hesitating as if the name tasted bitter on her tongue. Your mother meant everything to me. But she was flawed. Jack clenched his fists, feeling a surge of defensiveness. She was my mother. Flaws and all, she deserves respect. Margaret drew in a sharp breath, her expression turning into something uneasy. I did what I did to protect you, Jack. You have no idea of the enemies we had, the dangers lurking in shadows. I'm not proud of my choices, but... But what? He snapped, desperate to peel back the layers. What was so bad that you had to treat us like this? Tears brimmed in Margaret's eyes, threatening to spill over. When your mother was in the hospital, I was terrified. She never wanted you to find out about the truth of your family. About your father. What does Dad have to do with this? Emily said, her voice shaking. I thought he was gone because of a car accident. What truth? The room seemed to swirl around them as Margaret slowly continued, he wasn't just an accident, he was caught in something dark. Something connected to me. I'm the one who didn't want you to suffer the turmoil, to get sucked into the chaos. Jack felt the floor shift beneath him. Mom knew about this? What were you protecting us from? Margaret swallowed hard. There were threats, Jack. People who wanted your mother to pay for choices made long before you were born. If she hadn't, her voice trembled, and she faltered for a moment, staring into the distance. If I hadn't stepped in, you'd never have made it out of that situation alive. Are you saying it's your fault? Emily's tone was sharp, disbelief evident in her eyes. That she died because you tried to shield us? No. Margaret shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. No, that's not what I meant. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Jack felt the walls close in, his anger battling with a deep-seated regret. Margaret's battles had cost them dearly, yet behind the chaos, there was pain and fear he couldn't ignore. What did Mom do? Emily pressed, her voice trembling. What do we not know? Margaret hesitated again, her hands shaking. There's more to your past than you'll ever comprehend. Your mother's ties went far beyond our small town. I tried to cover it, to protect you both. Jack's heart raced as he considered what could be next. And all this time, I thought I knew you. All this time you've been keeping us in the dark. Yes, and for good reason. She said fiercely. But I made mistakes. You need to understand that. Emily stepped forward, eyes fierce. Then let us understand, Grandma. What have you been hiding? Margaret's expression twisted as if she teetered on the edge of a terrible revelation. It's not just about your mother anymore, she finally said. It's about a decision coming back to haunt us. A decision I made and it has consequences you won't see coming. Jack felt cold dread seep in, uninvited. What decision? He asked, the urgency clear in his voice. Sometimes the truth isn't just painful, it's dangerous, she whispered, as haunted shadows flickered in her eyes. Emily and Jack exchanged a fearful glance, sensing an impending storm that could shake the very foundation of their lives. Would they be able to face whatever lay ahead? Would they find the strength needed to confront a truth dark enough to upend them? Just then, the phone buzzed on the table, and they all flinched. Jack picked it up, but the call wasn't from someone they expected. It was just the beginning of everything unraveling. Who is it? Emily asked, breathless. Jack's heart raced, knowing deep down that this was no ordinary phone call. Everything hinged on this moment. Who could be calling with answers? Or worse, more secrets? Jack's hand shook as he stared at the screen. The name flashing up was one they hadn't heard in years. Nathan. His father's closest friend. The man who had slithered back into their lives after the accident, wrapped in false comfort and empty words. Jack lifted his gaze back to Emily and Margaret. The room felt colder, as if the air had become dense with unspoken words. He hesitated, his thumb hovering over the answer button. Should he do this? With everything swirling around them, was it wise to add another variable? Emily's voice broke through his thoughts. What does it say? Do you know him? Yeah, he said, swallowing hard. He was close to Dad. Used to visit a lot. But it's been years. Answer it, Margaret urged, her voice suddenly fierce and anxious. We need to know. You might find out something crucial. Heart pounding, Jack pressed the button. Hello? There was a brief rustling on the other end, and then Nathan's voice came through, deep and firm. Jack. It's been too long. I have something important we need to discuss. The casualness in Nathan's voice did nothing to ease the tension. What is it? Jack demanded, barely able to keep the edge from his voice. He glanced over at Emily, who was silently pleading for answers, and Margaret, who wore a mask of tension. You should come to my office, Nathan said after a beat. I'm afraid it can't be discussed over the phone. It's about your family. About your mother. Jack's stomach tightened. What do you know about my mother? I know more than you think, Nathan replied, his voice turning grave. I have documents you need to see. Secrets I can't just share over a phone line. Emily took a step closer, sensing the gravity of the conversation. You have to go, Jack. You have to find out what he knows. What is he talking about? Jack shot back, frustration rising. What could be so important? Nathan sighed, the weight of the world palpable in his tone. You're in danger, Jack. Your family's past has a way of resurfacing, and there are things you must be prepared for. Danger? What kind of danger? Jack asked, feeling the hair on the back of his neck rise. Let's just say your family has enemies and they're very much alive. If you don't tread carefully, you could lose everything. Jack's heart raced. The stakes had risen alarmingly in just a few minutes. He glanced at Emily, fear reflected in her wide eyes. I have to go see him. Wait. Margaret blurted out, stepping forward. You can't just walk into this unprepared. I need to come with you. No. Jack snapped, a primal instinct rising inside him. This is about me, and I need to handle it myself. You're the one who kept us in the dark. Why should I trust you? Because I've seen the darkness that lies out there, Margaret countered, her voice trembling with urgency. You may think you're prepared, but you have no idea what you're dealing with or what you might uncover. Jack took a deep breath, torn between the weight of his family's past and the threat of something lurking just beyond his understanding. The phone call had shattered the fragile calm that had settled, revealing a world of danger that they needed to face together. He glanced once more at Emily, who wore a determined expression despite the fear in her eyes. They were all in this together, whether they liked it or not. Whatever Nathan knew, whatever painful truths were buried, they would have to confront it. Together. Fine, Jack said at last, resolve hardening within him. But no more secrets. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. As he hung up the phone, a chill settled around them. Nothing would ever be the same again. Jack stood up, determination coiling in his gut. Let us go. Little did they know, waiting for them was a revelation dark enough to change everything and a choice that could cost them all. The drive to Nathan's office felt like a lifetime. Jack was on autopilot, his mind racing with a mix of anxiety and anger. Emily sat next to him, her fingers tightly knit together on her lap, casting quick glances at him. Margaret was in the back seat, alternating between fidgeting with her phone and looking out the window, her face etched with concern. Are you sure you want to do this? Emily asked quietly, her voice a soothing balm against the whirlwind of emotions swirling in the car. Jack clenched the steering wheel, knuckles turning white. I have to know. I can't let this hang over us. Margaret piped up, her voice low but filled with urgency. Just remember, Nathan may not be the ally you think he is. People can change, Jack. He wasn't around when you needed him most. Jack shot a glance in the rearview mirror. I know that. But he might hold the key to understanding what the hell is going on with our family. As they pulled into the lot, an unsettling sensation washed over him. Shadows danced between the cars, and the stark modern building loomed ahead like an imposing fortress. Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. Let us stick together, he said, opening the door. They stepped out into the brisk air, and a shiver traced down his spine. No matter what happens. They made their way inside, the sterile lobby echoing their footsteps. Jack approached the receptionist, trying to mask the unease creeping in. I'm here to see Nathan. She nodded, her expression unreadable. Take a seat. I'll let him know you're here. As they waited, the seconds stretched, filled with unspoken worries hanging heavily in the air. Jack stared at the floor, willing himself to focus. What secrets could Nathan reveal? And what would that mean for him, for his mother, and for Emily? With a sudden jolt, Nathan appeared, his presence both familiar and unsettling. Dressed in a sharp suit, he seemed to embody the confidence of someone who held all the cards. Jack, he greeted, a smile that felt more calculated than genuine plastered on his face. Good to see you again. And these must be your friends. Jack felt Emily stiffen beside him. Just tell us what you know, Nathan, he pressed, refusing to indulge in false pleasantries. Right to it, I see, Nathan said, his tone shifting slightly as he motioned for them to follow him to a conference room. I've got a lot to show you. Inside, the walls were lined with dark wood that felt almost claustrophobic. Nathan gestured for them to sit. The flickering overhead lights hummed above, underscoring the tension building in Jack's chest. Nathan laid out a series of documents on the table, his fingers brushing over them with an unsettling familiarity. This is about your mother. There are things in her past you need to know. Jack's heart sank at the thought. Was there more darkness concealed beneath the surface? What do you mean? Your family has connections to people who won't hesitate to use threats to protect their secrets, Nathan said, locking eyes with Jack. And your mother may have made some choices that put you all at risk. Jack clenched his jaw, pushing back against the swell of emotions. Just tell me exactly what you're implying. With a flick of his wrist, Nathan slid a file across the table. This will explain everything. As Jack reached for it, he felt a trembling in his fingers. He couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would lead them deeper into a rabbit hole from which there would be no return. When Jack opened the file, his breath caught in his throat. The documents inside were chilling. His body felt numb. He glanced at Emily and Margaret, both of them frozen at the sight as well. Jack, what does it say? Emily urged softly. Just then, Nathan's phone buzzed, breaking the charged silence. He glanced at the screen and went pale. No, this can't be happening. What? Jack shot back. What is going on? Nathan's expression twisted into one of dread. We need to leave. Now. They're closer than I realized. The air felt electric, panic crashing over them in waves. Outside, shadows shifted, and Jack's heart pounded even faster. They had just opened Pandora's box, and now it seemed it was time to face whatever lay on the other side. Who are they? Jack demanded, breathless, but Nathan was already moving, urgency propelling him forward. They had to get out, and the truth was more dangerous than any of them had anticipated. How far would they have to go to protect each other now? Jack looked over at Emily, eyes wide with fear, but also determination. We can't turn back now, he whispered, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. The door swung open, but as they stepped outside, the weight of their choices hung heavily in the air. A storm was coming, and they needed to be ready. What had Nathan really uncovered, and could they survive the truths waiting in the shadows? Jack's breath was quick, his boots thudding against the concrete as they raced toward the parking lot. He could sense the tension, feel the brush of anxiety in the air like the static before a storm. Emily stayed close, her eyes scanning their surroundings, while Margaret lagged slightly behind, her expression a mix of fear and urgency. What do we do? Emily urged, her voice low but edged with panic. What if they're out there waiting? We'll figure it out, Jack said, forcing confidence into his tone despite the dread curling in his stomach. He wished he knew what Nathan had uncovered. What threats lurked in the shadows? Was it family or something more sinister? Nathan's urgent movements took them to his car. He fumbled with his keys, almost dropping them as he shot a glance at the entrance to the building. I should have known it wouldn't be safe here. They've been watching me. Who? Jack demanded, throat dry. Is it about the documents? Are they after your files? It's bigger than that, Nathan replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. These people have influence. If they think you're getting too close to the truth about your mother. He didn't finish, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Just tell us what's happening. Jack pressed, frustration edging into his voice. He felt like they were unraveling a mystery only to be pulled deeper into a labyrinth of dread. Nathan sighed, the weight of years hanging on his shoulders. Your mother's past is entangled with some powerful individuals who have no qualms about hurting people to keep their secrets buried. They reached Nathan's car, and he unlocked it, ushering them inside. Jack stumbled into the passenger seat, his heart racing faster than before. Emily climbed in the back, her gaze unyielding, while Margaret, hesitating for just a moment, finally joined them. Just get us away from here, Jack muttered, looking at Nathan with fierce determination. We need to regroup. As Nathan drove, Jack stared out the window, watching the world whiz by in a blur of color. Fear mixed with anger bubbled inside him. He couldn't abandon Emily and Margaret now, not when their lives could be in danger. What did you find in that file? Emily asked, her eyes searching his. Was it about your mother? I don't know, Jack admitted, running a hand through his hair. But it felt like a warning, and now I can't shake the feeling that we're being hunted. It was quiet for a moment, an electric tension filling the car. Jack could see the streetlights flicker as they passed, casting fleeting shadows across their worried faces. "This isn't just about your family anymore," Nathan finally said, breaking the silence. "It's about your future, Jack. About protecting those you love. If there's a chance they could come after you, we can't let that happen," Jack interrupted, resolve hardening in his chest. "No one can get hurt because of what we've uncovered." As the car maneuvered around a corner, Nathan turned to face Jack, eyes serious. "I can help you, but we have to stay one step ahead. We need information, allies, maybe even a safe place to lay low while we figure this out." "Just tell me what to do," Jack replied, determination flooding his words. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep Emily and Margaret safe." Nathan nodded, narrowly avoiding a pothole, and glanced back at Emily and Margaret through the mirror. "I'll need you both to stay vigilant. Trust each other, and don't let fear dictate your actions." The road ahead was darker, the buildings looming like ominous shadows. Jack felt the weight of their situation, but alongside that darkness, a flicker of hope ignited within him. They could face this together, and they would find the answers they needed. As they pulled up to an inconspicuous diner on the outskirts of town, Nathan's safe haven, Jack looked at Emily, the shared determination between them cementing the resolve in his heart. "Stay close," he reminded them, all too aware of the fact that the answers they sought could also lead to greater danger. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." The moment they stepped into the diner, the smell of coffee and fried food enveloped them, a stark contrast to the tension still clinging to their skin. Jack scanned the booths, spotting disinterested patrons and a waitress shuffling behind the counter, but in the back corner, he noticed a shadowy figure sitting alone, deep in conversation on a phone. Something about the way the person leaned in, their face obscured, sent a shiver down his spine. "Do you see that?" he whispered to Nathan, who was already shifting into alert mode. "They know we're here," Nathan said, voice low. As the figure turned slightly, Jack's heart raced. Could this person hold more secrets? Or would they unleash more danger? "Get ready," Jack said, resolve flooding his veins. "Let us find out who that is." Whatever truths were waiting, Jack could feel them winding tighter around him, and the stakes had just gotten a whole lot higher. The bell above the diner's door dinged softly as they entered, but it felt like a thunderclap in Jack's ears. The chatter, the clinking of plates, none of it felt real compared to the thundering of his heart. He locked eyes on the figure in the corner, who was still on the phone, seeming oblivious to the kitchen scents wafting through the air. "Stay on high alert," Nathan whispered, his gaze unwavering. Jack nodded, but his focus was already on the shadow's shifting shape, every instinct in him screaming for action. Emily edged closer to Jack. "What if they call for backup?" she whispered, the hint of fear tinging her words. "If they do, we'll be ready," Jack replied, his resolve unshaken. But inside, the unease gnawed at him like a hungry wolf. Nathan guided their movements with the subtlety of a trained operative. They moved through narrow aisles lined with booths, taking seats 2 tables away from the mystery figure. The booth's cracked vinyl felt sticky under Jack's fingers, but he barely noticed. His pulse raced as he strained to hear the half of the conversation they could not catch. "No more time," the shadow spoke, their voice low and sharp. Jack shot a glance at Emily, her eyes were wide as she leaned closer, intrigued yet tense. "Nathan, do you think they're connected to whatever's after us?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I wouldn't doubt it," Nathan replied, scanning the room. "We might have just stepped into the lion's den." Jack instinctively shifted in his seat, hands balling into fists. "We can't just sit here and wait for something bad to happen. We have to know what is going on." "I know," Nathan said, his voice steady. "But let us not act rashly. If they are affiliated, we need an advantage." As if summoned by Jack's thoughts, the figure suddenly hung up, sliding the phone into their pocket. The diner felt electric now, a web of tension overlapping their every thought. Jack felt bravado swell in his chest. "We can't waste this chance. I'll distract them, you find out what you can." He glanced to gauge Emily's response, finding her brow wrinkled in concern. "Jack, that's too dangerous." "We have to be brave," he said, staring into her eyes. "I promise I won't let anything happen to you." "Just be careful," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. He felt a rush of determination at her faith in him, and he squared his shoulders as he rose from the booth. The figure's attention was directed toward the waitress when Jack crossed the space between tables, heart hammering in rhythm with the rapid-fire thoughts racing through his mind. "Excuse me," he said, keeping his voice steady, reveling in its strength. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face that sent Jack's heart plummeting. "Jack," the figure said, a slight smirk playing at the corners of their mouth. "I was wondering when you would show up." "What do you want?" Jack asked, his throat dry. "More than you can imagine," they replied, eyes glinting with something dangerously sharp. "Get away from him!" Nathan suddenly shouted, rising to his feet. Jack looked back toward the booth in confusion, but before he could react, the figure let out a laugh that echoed through the diner, drawing all stares. "Is this your guardian?" they taunted, unfazed by the sudden attention. The tension snapped tight like a drawn bowstring. Jack could feel the eyes of everyone in the diner on them. Did Nathan know this person? Should he trust him? Everything inside him screamed to run, to tear back to Emily and Margaret, but he felt his feet frozen to the ground. "Enough games," Jack said, eyes narrowing. "What do you know about my family?" The figure leaned closer, their voice dropping to a whisper that only he could hear. "Everything, and I think you might be interested in what I've got." With that, Jack's world felt like it was spiraling out of control. The truth was one step away, but at what cost? "Jack!" Emily called out, panic tinting her voice. He turned, desperate to know if they were in danger. But the shadowy figure was already slipping something from their pocket, a glint of metal shining in the harsh diner lights. It felt like the calm before a storm. The air was thick with unsaid threats, and Jack knew there was no turning back now. What was coming next would change everything. Heart racing, Jack stood face to face with the shadowy figure who held the key to his family's past. The diner buzzed with whispered conversations and nervous glances, but Jack only felt the weight of his uncertainty. "What do you know about my family?" He pressed again, his voice firm despite the unease clawing at him. The figure leaned in closer, the smirk still etched on their face. "Everything, and I think you might be interested in what I've got." They pulled out a small, weathered envelope, its corners frayed but still intact. Jack's gaze shifted from the envelope to Emily and Margaret, eyes wide with anxiety at the unfolding drama. "Jack!" Emily's voice cut through the tension, filled with concern. He spun around, searching for her, but as he turned back, the figure had vanished, melting into the shadows of the diner. Where did they go? Jack cursed under his breath, scanning the room, but the figure had slipped away unnoticed. He could feel the urgency of the moment. This was no idle game. The truth was close, perhaps even just out of reach. "Let us get out of here," Nathan urged, his voice low but urgent. Jack nodded, the decision clear in his mind. They couldn't linger any longer, the air crackled with danger. As they hurriedly exited the diner, Jack took Emily's hand, feeling her warmth and strength fill him with resolve. Margaret followed closely behind, her expression haunted yet determined. "What was that about?" she asked, looking flustered. "You can't just chase after someone like that." "I have to know," he replied. "Whatever they were going to tell me could shed light on everything we've faced, on what you did to keep us safe." They climbed into Nathan's car, Jack's heart pounding in rhythm with Emily's anxious breaths. The world outside blurred past as Nathan drove, the dim glow of streetlights casting fleeting shadows on their faces. "Jack," Emily said softly, what do we do if we find them again? We confront the truth together, Jack replied, squeezing her hand tightly. We're a family, and we face this as one. Once they reached Nathan's safe house, they gathered around a table stacked with documents. The air felt thick with anticipation. I have a theory about your family's enemies, Nathan said, his expression serious. But I need to know everything before we act. What did you see back there? Jack took a deep breath and recounted the encounter, how that figure knew him and how they spoke. Margaret listened closely, the color draining from her face as Jack detailed the moment they vanished. We have to track them down, Nathan urged. They know something that could destroy everything you love if you don't find out. Just then, the power went out, and the room was cast in darkness. Jack's heart sank. They were being watched. Everyone stay alert, he whispered, his instincts kicking in. Out of the shadows, a familiar voice cut through the silence. Hello, Jack. It was the figure again, now standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the moonlight. Everyone's breath caught in their throats as they stepped back instinctively. Jack stepped forward, anger and fear mixing in his gut. What do you want? He demanded. The figure revealed themselves slowly, the glint of moonlight catching the features. It was someone they didn't expect a face from their past, but one that held painful memories. I'm here to help you, to expose the truth. Margaret gasped, recognition flashing in her eyes. It can't be. Jack narrowed his eyes, fueled by the rush of emotions battling within him. Why should we trust you? The figure stepped into the light, the shadows fading. Because I've spent years protecting you. The darkness your family faces is a remnant of what happened long ago, long before you were born. It's time you knew the truth. Then tell us. Jack urged, his heart pounding. It was time for everything to unfold, the moment had come. Your mother, she was part of something significant, an alliance meant to protect your family from an enemy that still exists. This isn't just a simple fallout. It's a legacy of betrayal and violence. Jack felt the weight of those words settle like lead in his stomach. What do we need to do? The figure revealed a map, lines connecting shadows of forgotten towns and faces. You need to follow the trail. Trust each other, but be cautious. The enemies don't want this truth exposed. Who are these enemies? Emily's voice quivered but held a fierce determination. They're closer than you think. The figure hesitated, gauging their reactions. They're right here. In that moment, everything plunged into silence, thick with realization. Jack caught a glimpse of their grim expressions. This was life or death. If we're going to face this, we need to be 100% united, Nathan declared, eyes flaring with urgency. Surrounded by tension, Jack took a breath and nodded. Together. We will face whatever comes our way. No more secrets. As they gathered their resolve, a newfound strength blossomed in each of them, an inner fortitude forged in the fires of betrayal and pain. They prepared to step into the darkness, determined to uncover the truth buried beneath lies and shadows. The journey ahead would not be easy, but together, they would dismantle the fortress that threatened to tear them apart. As they headed forward, Jack could feel the weight of his ancestors' legacy on his shoulders, but for the first time, he felt prepared to bear it. Now was the moment to reclaim their story. Now was the moment to shine light in the darkness. As they stepped into the night, Jack was confident of one thing: they would unravel the truth, together. If you felt the intensity and emotion in Jack and Emily's journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't let this story end without your part in it. Hit that like button immediately to help push our journey forward. We want to hear your thoughts, so comment below with your feelings about this powerful conclusion. And don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need inspiration. Thank you for it. Your support means the world to us.